Right. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello. Welcome to Stories in Time. My name's Ellouise Schoettler. I'm a storyteller. I'm going to tell you an old story today. It's one that I'm very fond of, and I hope you'll like it too. Once, long ago, in a small village far away, there was a wonderful tailor lived in this village. He was so talented. He sewed so beautifully that everybody wanted him to make their clothes. And that was okay because it kept him busy. Busy, and he was making his money and everything that he needed. And then one day, he looked at himself, and he didn't look so good. His coat was worn. It was frayed at the sleeves. It was frayed at the collar. It was frayed even around the hem. He didn't look like a fine tailor wearing his own coat. So he decided right then that he had to get and make a new coat. But when he looked, he didn't like the material. So that became a search. He had the money to buy it, but he was very particular about the color, about the feel of the cloth. And of course, that's what made him such a good tailor. He finally found it, exactly what he wanted, the right pattern, beautiful colors. It felt so good. It was going to feel so good to wear it. And he bought quite a big bolt for himself. And he made it, and he looked wonderful. He felt so good when he put on this new coat, and he just felt wonderful wearing it. And he wore it every day, unless it was too hot to wear it. He wore it every day for many years until he looked down, and it was beginning to fray. Was beginning to look a little overused. And he thought, what am I going to do? And he spread it out on his sewing table, and he carefully looked at it, and he thought, I'll cut it off. I'll cut it off short down here at the hem where it's so worn. I'll cut the sleeves a little bit, and he made himself a short jacket. And every day for many months, he wore that jacket every day, and it felt so good, and he looked so good. Well, just, you know how you feel if you've got on something that you really love. And he really loved that jacket until the buttonholes began to fray. It was beginning to look heavily used. The sleeves, the buttonholes, the collar again, even the hem, and he spread it out on the table, and he looked. There's enough fabric here for a handsome vest. And that's what he did. He cut a new vest out of that fabric, the fabric that was still nearly new. And he loved wearing it, and he wore his new vest day after day after day after day. Oh, he loved it. People admired it. It felt good on his body. But then, you guessed it, it began to wear. It was having strings hanging off at inappropriate places. And he decided, I can't keep wearing this vest. It makes me look overused. So he laid it out again. He didn't want to let that fabric go. He loved that fabric. So he cut out a tie, a generous tie that he could wear. And he sewed it very carefully, and he decorated it with special stitchings. It was a beautiful tie. He loved to put it around his neck and tie it in the mornings and in the afternoons and in the evenings. He wore it all the time. And what do you know? I mean, you spill things on a tie, don't you? And it began to look messed up, even though he'd worn it for a long time, and he cleaned it and he took care of it, but it still began to look stained and, off, just, it was off. He took it off. But he looked at that fabric, and there were little small spots on it. And he made a button. He did. He made a button, and he covered it with the fabric so that he could wear it on his shoulder. And he would always have that fabric with him. And he trotted around town, and he had his fabric button on, and people would say, "That looks just like your jacket," or "That looks like your vest," or "That looks like that old tie you used to wear." And they remembered them all. They did. They remembered them all. And so they said, "How did that happen?" And he smiled, and he stood there, and he told them the story, just like I am telling it to you. The Thrifty Tailor. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad you could be here and hear that old story. The Thrifty Tailor. It's still in vogue, isn't it? I hope you'll come back. We'll have another story next week.
So, I got this new family, and I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy all day long. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, and she even talks to it. She talks to that more than she talks to him. "What's up, bro? Nice shirt." Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
I have another story for you. The Thrifty Tailor always makes me think about my mother. My mother taught herself to sew when I was little because she had to. Her aunt had given her a treadle sewing machine, and she taught herself to sew on that thing. And sometimes she even made clothes for me and for my sisters. I remember one year she had a skirt that had been her sister's. It was a wool plaid skirt, and she made a coat for my 3-year-old sister. She spread it out on the bed. She had a pattern, she put it together, and she matched those stripes up so that the lines in the blue that were green and red matched perfectly. I remember she called me into the bedroom and said, "I want you to look at this, Ellouise. Look, I didn't think I could do it, but I did it." I didn't really know what she was talking about, but she was so proud of having made this coat for my sister Kathy. So there were occasionally real challenges that came to my mother. Let's see, I can think of several others that might fit this story. When I was in the 9th grade, a boy asked me to go with him to the football banquet. It was junior high school. It was my first date that I'd been asked to go out on. I wanted a new dress. And sometimes in my family, when I was growing up, well, there just wasn't any money there. And this was a time when there wasn't any money there, and I really felt the pinch of that. And I said to Mama, "I want a new dress, Mama. I want a new dress for this." She went to the telephone and she called my grandmother, her mother. And she said, "Mama, do you still have that blue wedding dress that you used to wear, but I know that you've put it up and you're not going to wear it anymore?" And she did. She said, "I know there's enough taffeta in that dress that I can make Ellouise a new dress for this party." Well, she brought it home, she laid it out. It had so much light colored taffeta, and it's crinkled, and it's, you know how the taffeta sounds, it sort of scratches against each other when you're rubbing it together. And she cut out a dress. Oh, had a Peter Pan collar, short sleeves, bodice, waist. She made a belt that went with it, but she wasn't happy with it. it looked good to me. I kept trying it on, and she'd say, "This is going to be really nice. It's going to be really nice, Ellouise." And then it just didn't suit her. So she went to the fabric store, and she bought about 1/4 yard of navy blue taffeta. And she put it around the sleeves for cuffs on the sleeves. And she changed the belt and gave it a navy blue belt and put it on the collar, made a little decorated collar. And I will tell you, when I wore that dress, I felt like a princess. And that was all because my mother thought about where she could pick up some material, and she made it for me. But there was another time that my sister Linda really needed something, and Mama came through with flying colors. And the time when Linda was in about the 7th or 8th grade, she was taking classes to be a majorette, you know, to throw up her batons in the air. She had a pair of white leather boots that scuffed when she kicked them on the sidewalk. And she came in with a piece of paper in her hand. And the class had gotten together, and the teacher of this class had given them all pictures of a majorette costume that she wanted all of them to wear for the Christmas parade in Charlotte, North Carolina. There would be cars, there was going to be a horse or two, there would be many bands, and there was going to be this group of majorettes that would walk down Tryon Street, throwing their batons in the air, flipping their skirts up and scuffing their boots behind a band. I got to do this, Mama. I really do. And this is the dress that they want me to wear, the outfit. And Mama said, "Well, where's the pattern?" "Well, there's not a pattern, Mama. Here's the picture. You can make it from the picture, can't you?" "Well, Linda, well, that's what you have to do. It's white satin. It's what she wants you to do. White satin with those gold-looking buttons down the front and some navy blue trim." And Mama looked at it, and looking back, I can understand. She didn't have a pattern, and she didn't have any money. But she came through because she had hidden back in the back of her big closet a bridesmaid's dress that a friend had given her, white satin, and she had saved it. She had 3 daughters. When she saw that white satin dress, she couldn't believe that there would never be a call for that. And she made the dress out of the bridesmaid's dress. And the night that they went down Tryon Street in Charlotte, North Carolina, if you could have seen my sister Linda, she was so happy. Her face was smiling, her feet were scuffing, and the boots were shining, and I knew that she was just getting a big blister on the bottom of her foot. But she was happy, and Mama just watched her coming and smiled. Oh, that was a mother that was really happy over a handmade costume. I hope you have nice memories like that. Like the Thrifty Tailor had made his new coat and his jacket, his vest, a tie and a button. My mother never got rid of anything that she thought she might be able to make good use of. Thank you. I hope you'll come back, hear these stories.